Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, before this episode kicks off, I'm giving you guys a bit of a heads up here. Due to circumstances out of our control, this episode was previously filmed at AmFest, and unfortunately, they moved Media Row inside the exhibitor hall under a really loud speaker. So that caused us a bit of a challenge with the audio, but please hang in there with us. Give it a listen because this episode is filled with an amazing guest with a lot of interesting things to say. And if you wouldn't mind giving it a like, giving it a comment, and giving it a share, that would just really help us continue to bring even more interesting people on and help them share their messages. Thank you so much.
We're here with Jeff Zink. He is the former congressional candidate of Arizona and has the potential to have a very exciting new role coming up very soon. How is this weekend going for you?
You know what? This is really great. I really appreciate the fact that, Parler is actually coming in and doing this and doing Parler TV. It's an alternative.
Why is this important to you?
Well, because the truth can come out. So the people that don't know this, I'm on the final list of MAHA, which is Make America Healthy Again. And it's under Robert Kennedy Jr. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to revolutionize the way food is processed, the way that food is actually packaged, the way that food is actually done. We need to have farmers. If we don't have farmers and ranchers, we're going to run out of food. So they're very vitally important. And these people, are really doing things that are not allowing them to make any money. So we're having them reduced. Here's the other thing. Pharmaceutical companies, let's say you had cancer. Cancer drugs are $25,000 a month. We can instantly save $18,000 by doing genetic drugs, and we take blood and we get the
genetic drugs?
Genetic that it will be titrated directly to you.
What?
That's what we have. We have the ability to do that, but pharmaceutical companies do not want that because that costs about $8,000. Here's something else. I can take blood and we can look at the cancer itself, the DNA structure of the cancer. We can find out what is sensitive or is resistant to that drug. We can go and use compound pharmaceutical companies, which is a fraction, so you don't lose your hair, your eyebrows, or anything else. You don't have to go through that. And it's fractioned, but it's targeted directly to that cancer. And so we have a lady that had stage 4 colon cancer. This was 26 years ago. Was told to go home, go to hospice, and prepare to die. She went to the doctors that we're working with that had this ill. 26 years later, she's cancer-free and is fine. She's never had a relapse.
This was something that could be available to everybody, that's what you're saying, but not because of what?
Because the pharmaceutical companies sue the mom and pop shops and the compound pharmaceutical companies so that they have a monopoly.
So what theoretically do you see RFK Jr. being able to do about a situation like that?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go after the pharmaceutical companies. They have a monopoly. So we know that when the railroads, we have a game that's called Monopoly, and so you break these. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is that when the railroads were there, they broke them up because there was a monopoly. Steel had a monopoly, and so it was broken up by the federal government. Why are we not doing this with Facebook, with pharmaceutical companies, with all of these monopolies that are dominating and altering and changing? Why is it that information is so hard to get out that we now have an enterprise called Parler TV? Here's a commercial. If you don't support Parler TV, then you're making a mistake because truth can come out here because it's uncensored.
That's right.
And we have been censored so much. I was completely deplatformed for putting a paper out that took 18 to 35-year-old athletes, and I showed that the only thing that they had in common within 6 months of having the vaccine, that they passed away. That's the only common denominator was the vaccine, and you had a healthy sect, both male and female, of either high school to professional athletes, 18 to 35, and they had a 3,800 increase in death.
And what happened to you when you put this information out? What happened?
I was completely deplatformed on all social media, taken completely off. Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, nothing. And since then, I have not been able to get back on. That's the reason why when we started talking and I said, and you said, well, we're not censored. And I said, then I need to be a part of that. And so now I'm going to join and come a part, and then you'll have direct access to somebody in HHS that I'll be able to get, this information out when we start putting this out and really telling the truth.
See, you know what? It makes sense to come to these events. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to run into. And honestly, like the stories that people are telling me, you shared your story with me, and that's what I really found very, very interesting. Just the journey, what you guys have been through in your own personal life with your family. Why don't you share a little bit about what happened to you?
Oh, absolutely. So in the J6, I decided that I was going to go to Washington, D.C. on January the 6th in 2021, sorry. And my son decided that he would go with me. Now, the thing is that I had just been healed by God. I had an illness that I was supposed to be dead already myself, but God actually healed me on December 24th of 2020, and he said, I'm going to break your headaches. I had migraine headaches so severe that my health was so deteriorated that we had already planned my funeral. He said that he was going to restore my health. Do I look like I'm about to die? In fact, I can miss a month of meals and still be fine. And then he was going to send me to Congress to represent his people. Well, the thing is that I thought I was supposed to be a congressman. So I ran for Congress, and I was there that day for the single reason of I thought we were going to have a constitutional election. First time in history that Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Colorado, or Nevada, and Arizona was going to withhold their electoral college votes. Well, neither one of the president or president-elect was going to be able to be a president. So they were going to go to a constitutional election, which is every state has one vote, and you have to go to the state representatives, and whoever controls the state representative house, that's how you have to vote. Well, 31 states were controlled by the Republican Party. Donald Trump was going to be the duly elected president for the first time in history by Constitution. That's why I went down there. What ended up happening is that we then videotaped Hunter Emke, who was the point of the spear, the very first person that penetrated the Capitol. He broke 5 windows. We captured that, my son and I, and we turned my card over to the Capitol Police and said, we have video showing from him jumping up onto the ledge, kicking the 3 windows, punching the other 2, and then being arrested. We have all of that.
Was he one of the FBI? Was he a part of the FBI?
He was part of the Antifa. Black Lives movement is what he was. He was a person that got caught up in the emotions. But because I was a congressional candidate, I put so much pressure on the prosecution that they actually prosecuted him. For his action of 5 windows being broken, he got 4 months incarceration, 3 years probation, and $2,921 restitution. I think that is absolutely fair. I thought that was appropriate. But my son, who had gone live on Facebook during that time, on January the 28th, Michael D. Brown, a federal special agent, went into a grand jury and said that my son entered into the Capitol, fought with Capitol Police, and was directly responsible for killing Brian Sicknick. Now, Brian Sicknick was the Capitol Police officer that they said was hit over the head with fire extinguisher. Michael D. Brown named my son as that person. None of this happened. Michael Brown lied and perjured himself to a grand jury, but it didn't matter. It still went to trial. My son was convicted because he is a white, male, Christian, straight, individual, and because he was not Democrat, he was found guilty. So you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Today, you're guilty until proven Democrat. And so he then had served 6 weeks in the gulag and was then taken out, and then 2.5 years later goes to trial. Well, about 2.5 months ago, he goes to sentencing again because the Supreme Court picked up the 1512C2, which is, obstruction of a congressional Senate hearing. Well, because of that being dropped, then he wasn't facing 32 years in prison. Now think about that. A guy who actually did something which was 4 months incarceration, 3 years probation, $2,921. Now you have something where you've got, and at the very beginning he was facing 140 years. Then they reduced it to 80, and then when he was convicted, he was facing 32 years in federal penitentiary. So then he goes in, and the judge literally, once all of that was stripped away, he said, well, you will serve 90 days. So he had to serve another month. My son was taken from Texas to Arizona 3 weeks before the election. My son was weaponized against my congressional waste, stating that he was being incarcerated and using up Arizona taxpayer dollars for his plight in the Fedsurrection, not insurrection. And so that's the destruction and how far these people will go. Well, now evidence has just came out as quickly as this week, where it's exonerated my son completely. And so now we don't even have to have the pardon. We're now in appeal because of Brady violations. And the judge even made the statement that when we were going to trial, that Ryan was guilty of a crime. We just have to have the trial.
Scary.
So
it's un-American.
It is. And so these are the things that we have. But I didn't do it because I was running for Congress. But my son paid a dear price and was weaponized against me. And that's what they tried to do. I even received a phone call that stated that if, at the very beginning, if I would drop out of the race, they'd drop the charges on my son.
Wow.
So these are the types of things that they're willing to do and go to, and it's awful. And no American should ever have to go through that. And so what I want to do is I want to go to Washington, D.C. I want to work very hard for the people. And then just like at any time you come into my office, you're welcome. We can sit down and you can say, just like you did, so what's going on? And it has to be that transparent. Here's what we're doing. This is what's going on. That's what we want.
Wow. Well, Jeff, so what's the next step for you? What has to happen for this to move forward?
So the Senate has to approve Bobby Kennedy to be the director over HHS. Jim O'Neill has already will be put into place, and then I will be an assistant secretary of health for HHS as well, and so we'll sit down and we're being looked at, and I've been in so many meetings with the steering committee and the transition team and stuff. So this is exciting time. People need to be excited. Big change is happening, and it's giving the power back to the people.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, thank you for your time on the show today.
So much.
Looking forward to your future.
You bet.
And we'll see what's happening. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more interviews coming shortly.